The protests in Iran are a complex and evolving situation, driven by deep-seated grievances. It is important to note that information from within Iran can be difficult to verify due to internet restrictions. However, based on international reporting and analyst observations, the core reasons for the persistent and massive protest movements like those following the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022, which ignited a sustained wave, can be summarized under 7 interconnected reasons. Here are 7 reasons for the protests in Iran. 1. The death of Mahsa Jina Amini and brutality of morality police. The immediate catalyst, the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in September 2022 after her arrest by the Gasht-e Ershad Guidance Patrol for allegedly improperly wearing her hijab, was the direct trigger for the current wave. Her death became a symbol of state brutality, particularly against women. Broader resentment. It focused long-simmering anger at the mandatory hijab laws and the oppressive authority of the morality police, seen by many, especially the younger, urban population, as a tool of systemic control and humiliation. 2. Women's rights, bodily autonomy, and women, life, freedom. The central chant of the protests became an Zendegi Azadi, woman, life, freedom. This highlights that the movement is, at its core, a feminist uprising against decades of legal and social discrimination. It's a demand for bodily autonomy and the right to choose one's dress, representing a fundamental rejection of the regime's imposition of a specific social and moral code. 3. Political repression and lack of freedoms. Iran is an authoritarian theocracy where supreme power rests with the unelected supreme leader. Meaningful political opposition is banned, dissent is crushed, and elections are heavily vetted. Protests are often the only outlet for a population, especially the youth who have no memory of the 1979 revolution, to express their desire for basic political freedoms, accountability, and a change in the system. 4. Severe economic crisis and mismanagement. Hyperinflation, unemployment, and poverty, years of economic mismanagement, corruption, and crippling international sanctions, primarily due to Iran's nuclear program and regional policies, have devastated the economy. Widening gap. There's a massive gap between the ruling elite, including the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and the general populace. Most Iranians struggle with plummeting living standards, while they perceive the elite as corrupt and insulated from the crisis. 5. Youth demographics and a cultural generation gap. Over 60% of Iran's population is under 30. This young, connected generation is globally aware, culturally progressive, and deeply disillusioned with the ideology and restrictions of the aging revolutionary establishment. They use social media despite blocks and aspire to personal and social freedoms that are at odds with the state's rigid rules, leading to a fundamental and irreconcilable value clash. 6. Systemic corruption and elite entrenchment. Widespread corruption within state-linked foundations, bonyads, the IRGC's vast economic empire, and the judiciary erodes public trust. The perception is that the system serves itself, not the people. The protests often target not just specific policies, but the entire structure of power, chanting against the supreme leader and the IRGC. 7. Brutal state response and a cycle of grievance. The government's response to protests has consistently been one of violent crackdown, mass arrests, show trials, internet shutdowns, and lethal force against demonstrators. Security forces, especially the IRGC and Basij militia, have repeatedly used live ammunition. This brutality does not suppress dissent in the long term. Instead, it fuels more anger and resentment, creating a cycle where each killing or harsh sentence becomes a new reason to protest. In conclusion, the protests in Iran are not about a single issue. They represent a convergence of social, political, and economic crises. What began as outrage over the death of a young woman has exploded into the most significant challenge to Iran's theocratic system in decades, driven by a young population demanding dignity, freedom, and a future fundamentally different from the present. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.